Hi. In this video, I'm gonna read Kenny a story. I've been getting a lot of requests for this, so let's see. I will be reading a little book by the name of, what's this book called again? This Steel Sar by Michael Moorcock. I'm just gonna start you right on chapter 9. Great place to start, Kenny. Great place to start. I've never read this before, but I'm sure this is the best place to start with this book. Chapter 9, Hopes of Salvation. Begg came up to the hotel in the afternoon and asked suspiciously after Underwood. We said that we had heard that he'd had some sort of accident. He didn't believe us, of course, but he had his hands full in the town and couldn't wait to question us further. He'd escorted some clergymen to the hotel and some Chinese nuns from the Catholic mission. They sat huddled in the far corner of the bar and didn't talk much to us. Nesbitt's secretary, a round-faced, anxious Bengali, I think that's how that word is pronounced, had come with Begg, and he remained almost constantly by the window, looking out as if he expected the airship to arrive at any minute. I asked Begg about Dempsey, and the soldier glowered at me, muttering that Dempsey had been seen with some of the Chinese quote-unquote rebels and might find himself in real trouble with the authorities if he wasn't careful. I also learned that Hira had decided to stay on at the hospital along with most of his nuns. By that evening, a few more people had drifted up, including 2 Irish priests who joined the others in the corner. O'Meyer, we're going to go with O'Meyer, that's probably not how that name is pronounced, but seemed delighted to have so many new guests and rushed around, seeing that rooms were prepared for them. Even I received a room on the 2nd floor. Beggs returned looking tired and angry. His normally neat uniform was dusty, and he had a bruise over his right eye. He seemed to be blaming Nye and me for his problems, and wouldn't speak to us at all on this second visit. He had brought us 3 of his 12-man army for protection. I struggled with that one, Kenny. Yeah. The rest were remaining in the town to keep order, though from the noise below there was precious little of that, and to protect the official representative's residence, for Brigadier Nesbitt, it emerged, had elected to stay, along with his valet. Beggs returned a little later. He was alone and as stiff-backed as ever as he guided his horse down the hill and disappeared into the darkness and the cacophony below. I don't believe he was seen alive again. Well, okay, that's... Character's kind of gone from the story now, I guess. Okay. By midnight, the ladies and gentlemen of the cloth had all gone to bed, and Nye, O'Meyer, and myself were in our usual places at the bar, while the little Bengali paced back and forth beside the windows. What's the little Bengali's name, Mr. Bastable? Come on. Even Nye seemed a trifle nervous, and once he expressed the belief that we might not quite last out. Then he too went to bed, and the Bengali followed him. Whatever. O'Meyer had his big account book open on the bar. His big cock open on the bar. Let's just go for it. I know you love the jokes here, Kenny. I know you love them. Where was I? And for a while seemed cheerfully engrossed in his arithmetic before closing the book with a crash, nodding good night to me, and heaving his huge bulk away to his own quarters. Now, save for the Gurkhas? I don't know. Outside, I was the only one up. I felt exhausted, but not particularly sleepy. I decided to go outside and see if I could detect any activity in the town. As I entered the lobby, I heard voices by the main entrance. Me too. I peered out, but the oil lamp wasn't bright enough to show me anything. I opened the door. One of the Gurkha guards was shouting at a man I could dimly see in the moonlight. The Gurkha gestured with his bayoneted rifle, and the man turned away. For a moment I saw his face in the faint glow from the lamp in the lobby. I pushed past the soldiers and hurried outside. "Dempsey, is that you?" That's Mr. Bastable's voice now, I guess. He looked back. His shoulders were bowed and his jacket had been ripped. His face was deathly pale, his eyelids almost closed. "Hello, Bastable." The speech was slurred. "Though this was my hotel." He's not a smoker. I don't know why I did that. "It is." I went towards him and took a limp arm. God, I'm ruining this story. "Come inside." The Gurkhas made no attempt to stop us as I led Dempsey into a Myers. The man was staggering and shivering. A dry retching noise came from his throat. Now you love it when I make those noises, Kenny. He was gripping something tightly in his right hand. There was no point in questioning him, and I did my best to get him up the stairs and along the passage to his room. The door was unlocked. I half carried Dempsey in, let him sit on the bed, while I lit the oil lamp. Oil lamp. I don't have one of those, but here's a little substitute for a little bit of mood. There we go. Little lamp. Okay, where was I? The light revealed a room which was surprisingly neat. The bed was made up, and there was no litter. In fact, the room was completely impersonal. I got Dempsey onto the bed, and he stretched out with a sigh. The shivering came in brief spasms now. He blinked and looked up at me as I took his pulse. "Thank you very much, Bastable," he said. I don't know why he sounds like that. You probably can't understand a word of it, but I thought I might have a word with you. "You're in bad shape." That's not what he sounds like. What was it? What was the voice I was doing? "You're in bad shape," I said. "Better sleep if you can." "They're looting down there," he said. "Killing each other. Perhaps it's something in the air." I think he's like Scottish or something, so I don't know why I'm voicing him like a dying Southern man, but I've committed. Let's see. He coughed. Okay, so my coughing was like completely ridiculous. And then started to choke. Ugh. I don't want to do choking noises, that's gross. I got him upright and tried to prise the packet he held from his fingers, but he reacted angrily, with surprising strength. He pulled his hands away. "I can look after myself now, old man." There were tears in his eyes as he sank back onto the pillow. "I'm just tired. Sick and tired." "Dempsey, you're killing yourself. Let me." "I hope you're right, Bastable. It's taken too bloody long, though. I wish I'd had the guts to do it properly." Terrible. I stood up, telling him that I would call back later to see how he was. He closed his eyes and seemed to fall asleep. I experienced that feeling of impotence common to many who have themselves experienced the relief of drug addiction. I knew only too well that there was little I could do for the poor, tormented wretch. He could only help himself. And Dempsey seemed genuinely haunted, perhaps by a special insight into things as they really were, perhaps by something in himself, some aspect of his own character which he could not reconcile with his moral outlook. For it was becoming increasingly clear that Dempsey, in spite of his denials, had a very moral outlook, and that he didn't think much of himself. I went to my own room, along the passage, and took off... flipped a bit too many pages there. Sorry. Took off my jacket and trousers. I lay down on the bed in the darkness, listening to the insects hurling themselves against the woven wire of the window screens. Moonlight flooded the room. Soon I fell into a light sleep. I woke up suddenly. The door was creaking as it slowly opened. I don't have a creaky door, so I can't do a little bit of ASMR for you, and I looked around for a weapon, thinking of the coolies that attacked the hotel while I slept. Then, with a sigh of relief, I saw that it was Dempsey. He was leaning almost nonchalantly on the door handle. His face was as pale as ever, but he seemed to have recovered his strength. "Sorry to disturb you, bastable." "Do you need help?" I got up and pulled on my trousers. "No, dude, you can keep those off." I think if I'm reading Dempsey right here, you can keep those off, my man. Perhaps, oops, sorry. Perhaps I do. There isn't a lot of time now, he smiled. Not practical help, though. His eyes were glazed and dreamy, and I realized that he had taken some stimulant to offset the effects of the opium. I hated to think what was happening both to his mind and his body. He sat down heavily on my bed. I'm fine. I'm fine. He spoke as if to reassure himself. I just thought I'd drop in for a chat. You wanted a chat, right? Earlier? I sat down in the wicker armchair beside the bed. Why not? I said as cheerfully as I could. That's not how humans speak, Jenny. Oh, Kenny, you're sleepy. You're really getting sleepy from my story. Let's see. I told you there's no need to patronize me. I'll come to make a sort of confession. I don't know why it should be you, bastable. Perhaps just because, well, you're one of the victims, Singapore and everything. It's over, I said, and it certainly couldn't have been anything to do with you. I don't know who this part is. Okay. The war is ceaseless. The most we can hope for are occasional moments of tranquility in the midst of the conflict. I quote Lobkowitz. His drugged eyes shone for a second with an ironic light. You read him too. I didn't think you were another red, bastable. I'm not. Neither, for that matter, is Lobkowitz. It's a matter of opinion. Besides, I speak from a great deal of experience. As a soldier? I have been a soldier, but I have come to the conclusion that the human race is constantly in a state of tension, that those tensions make us what we are, and that they will often lead to wars. The greater our ingenuity at inventing weapons, the worse the wars become. Oh, God, Jesus. Oh, indeed, I agree with that last statement, he sighed. But don't you believe it's possible for people to acknowledge the tensions and yet make harmony from those tensions just as music is made? God, I cannot. This voice, Kenny, that I've created is not fitting for what is being said here. My experience would have it otherwise. My hope, of course, is another thing, but I see little point in such a debate when the world is currently in such an appalling state. This frightful Armageddon will probably not be over until the last aerial man-o'-war falls from the skies. You really see it as an Armageddon? I could not tell him what I knew, that I had already passed through 3 alternative versions of our world, and in each seen the most hideous destruction of civilization, that I myself felt responsibility for at least one of those great wars. I merely shrugged. Perhaps not. Perhaps there will be peace. The Russians and the Japanese have always been at loggerheads. What I can't understand is how Britain failed to stop it, and why the Japanese turned to us with such ferocity. I know why, he said. I patted his arm. Do you know, or is it the opium telling you? I've been fond of opium in my time, Dempsey. My appearance was once not too different from yours. Can you believe that? I thought there was something, but why? I took part in a crime, I said. A very wicked crime, and then I paused. Then I became lost. But you're not lost now. I'm lost now, but I've decided to make the best of things. I've become a good airshipman. I love airships. There's nothing like being at the helm of one. Oh. I know, he said. Of course I know, but I'll never go aloft again. Something happened. An accident. A small, wretched laugh came out of his throat. You could call it that. Oh, God, my throat. He fumbled in his pocket and took something out, placing it on the bed beside him. It was a syringe. This stuff makes you want to talk, unlike the opium. From his other pocket he took a handful of ampoules and placed them neatly beside the syringe. I got up. I can't let you. His eyes were full of pain. Can't you? The words had intense significance. They silenced me. I sat down again with a shrug. He put his hand over the syringe and the ampoules and stared at me grimly. You've got no choice. I've got no choice. Our choices are all gone, Bastable. For my own part, one way or another, I'm going to kill myself. You can take that for granted. I'd rather you let me do it this way. I know the state of mind you're in, old man. I was in it once. And without wishing to make a stupid comparison, I feel I've had as much reason as anyone on earth to want to do it. But you've seen me alive. I've gone beyond suicide. Well, I haven't. Yet he hesitated. I wanted to talk to you, Bastable. Then talk. I can't without this stuff. Once again, I shrugged. But I knew what it was to have an unbearable weight on one's conscience. Take a little, then, I suggested. Just a little, and talk. But don't try to kill yourself. At least not until you have confided in me. He shuddered. Confided? What a word. You sound like a priest. Just a fellow sufferer. You're a bit of a prick, Bastable. I smiled. So I've been told by others. You're a decent sort, and you don't judge others too much. Only yourself, am I right? I'm afraid you probably are. You don't hold with socialism, do you? With my brand, at any rate. What's your brand? Well, Kropotkin called it anarchism, but the words come to mean something very different in the public mind. You don't blow things up yet, then? Again he began to shake. He tried to speak, but no words came. I had accidentally struck a nerve. I moved towards him. I'm sorry, old man. I didn't mean. He drew away from me. Get out, he said. For God's sake, leave me alone. I felt very foolish. Dempsey, believe me, I meant nothing serious. I was being facetious. Get out! It was almost a shout, a plea. Get out, Bastable. The ship's coming. Save yourself if you can. I'm not going to let you kill yourself. I grabbed up some of the ampoules. I want to listen, Dempsey. He fell back on the bed. His head hit the wall. He groaned. His body fell sideways. He had passed out. I checked his pulse and his breathing. Then I went back to look for help. I recalled that there was a missionary doctor now in the hotel. Can the viewers at home still see Kenny? I think so. I hope so. Let's see here. Where was I? As I reached the ground floor and headed to the bar where I would find Almayer, I heard people near the windows begin to mutter, then to talk excitedly. The darkness outside was suddenly broken by a beam of bright light. Almayer saw it. He seemed disappointed. When I reached him, he muttered, Oh, Jesus, I gotta make a voice for Almayer now. Let me see here. Wait, no, I don't know what fucking nationality it is. That might be offensive or some shit. Let me see. Let me think of a weird voice. Let me think of a funny little voice that's not the two voices I've already done. It's the ship. It's coming in. He was going to lose all his customers. I told him to send someone to look after Dempsey, and then I ran from the hotel towards the park. My intention was to guide the ship to her mast. To my astonishment, there were already uniformed men on the ground. I rushed towards one. They must have parachuted from the ship. Thank God you've come, I said. The nearest figure turned. I looked into the expressionless face of a captain in the Imperial Army. "Go back inside," he said. "Tell them that if anyone attempts to leave the building, it will be bombed to rubble." That's the end of that chapter. I hope you enjoyed it, Kenny. I think he's asleep. Oh, I think he's asleep. I think the baby boy liked his story. Alright, bye everyone. This was that's been chapter 9 of the Steel Sar. Oh no. I'm sorry. I'll keep it down. Alright, bye.